Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful sunny morning here in Japan. I just made myself some traditional Jamaican breakfast, some plantain porridge. It was amazing. And I'm about to go have a barbecue in the park, so it's like a storybook day for me. But before I do that, I want to complain a little bit about Jack, because he's been on my mind lately. I've been watching the Tekken 7 World Tour, and as usual with the Tekken 7 tournament scene, it's a little bit of a jack off. So why is that? I mean, we had some discussions on this channel, but basically any channel in the early days of Tekken 7 on console that did discussions on tier lists, people were talking about how Jack is constantly referred to by experienced players as a sort of mid-tier character, even though he constantly does so extremely well in tournaments. Why is that? Why isn't he considered more powerful? I want to sort of talk a little bit about that, and I want to talk about this move and this move specifically and why they're so uniquely powerful in this game, to kind of crystallize my own thoughts on it and also hear what you have to say about it, because I have a feeling I think that these moves are actually something that might need to be looked at, because I don't feel they're fun to watch or fun to play against right now, but we'll see what happens. So one thing that we should mention initially is that any character that does very well in tournament tends to be characterized by an exceptionally easy to understand game plan. And that might be true for Jack more than any other character. I honestly believe that you can rotate something like 4 different moves with Jack, and that sounds like a huge overstatement, but I think it's actually true. Around 4 moves with Jack, and if you know that and his combo, you can basically do very well at a super high level. I mean, provided that you are a good Tekken player overall, and that you have the execution and everything else, you can knock that out of the hand of Jack players. I think an argument can be made, at least for Saint being the greatest Tekken player of all time. So it's not like these players are exploiting the character, it's just that he's like a super effective blunt instrument right now, and it's making the game maybe a little bit less fun. I mentioned his combo, by the way, that you need to know the combo. It's basically trivial. I mean, I'm gonna mess it up now just because I said that, but let's see if we can get a combo going here. Yeah, there you go. Of course I'm gonna mess it up. Okay, so if you can pull that off, that's like almost 90 damage from a 15 frame launcher from half screen. Extremely high damage, very easy to understand. Like if you're not making a YouTube video, basically impossible to mess up. So if you can know that, you know about this move, this move, this move, this move, maybe that move, those 5 moves, you can basically get by with this character and do extremely well. I think what I want to start talking about when we're going to talk about specific moves is this low here. This is FCDB1, because I think a lot of newer players, I mean, if you're a veteran, you know a lot about this, but if you're not, you might not understand why this low is so uniquely powerful and why it's so different from most other low pokes. The first thing you need to know is that this move is not this move. This is down back 1 and this is full crouch down back 1, and they're very different. They have similarities, they're both low pokes, but this is more of a traditional, very powerful long range low poke, whereas this is something much more. So the first thing we need to explain here that you might not know is that basically any low poke in Tekken, or any low of any kind, tends to be punishable. The reason for that is that lows are difficult to block. They're much more difficult to block than a jab like this, because you just stand and block it, right? But any low needs to be is difficult to block because if it's fast and you can't react to it, it needs to be predicted. And so if you make an accurate prediction, you read your opponent hard, you duck down and block a low, you deserve to get damage as your reward. And so what most people who aren't super knowledgeable about frame data tend to do, I'm guilty of this sometimes myself as well, is when I know a move is launch punishable on block, I'll block and launch it, but most of the other times I just collect a while standing 4 for some damage. And because it's difficult to know all the specifics of when a move is -12, -13, and so on. But in the case of this full crouch down back one, you actually can't even get an 11 frame while standing 4, because this move is safe on block, which is what I'm trying to get to here. And having a low that is safe on block is very rare and very unique in this game, for the reasons I just explained. You deserve to get damage for blocking it, but you don't in this case. It is -8 on block, meaning that it is completely safe. You can't get you know, crouch jabs or anything else on it. It is completely safe. And so for Jack to be able to, you know, run in and apply this is extremely safe, because it's not only unreactable, it's also safe even when he gets it blocked, which he shouldn't do. The other unique aspect of the move that makes it so powerful is that this is actually very plus on hit, and that's another unique aspect for a low poke. If you start looking up frame data of low poke, something that you'll find is that they will usually give you a very small frame advantage on hit. +1, +2, some of them are even minus on hit, which might sound strange if you're unfamiliar with frame data, but they're actually minus on hit because they're not supposed to be used as setup tools. You're not supposed to be, you know, continuing a lot of offense off of a low poke. They're more for chip damage. You harass your opponent with low pokes, you rack up damage over time, and you also try and harass your opponent, make them annoyed, and try and duck a move and predict when that's going to happen, and that's when you hit them with a mid launcher. So they're setup tools for mids in that sense, but they're not setup tools for, you know, continuing offense and collecting mix-ups. But in the case of Jack, that's not really true, because he can get +6 on hit off of this move, which is a lot. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a good moves that will give you that are, you know, mid or high. So I mean, you run in, you do this move. It's too fast to react to. If you get blocked, you're completely safe. If you collect a hit, you're at +6, and you can continue powerful offense with a mix-up. That's very unique for low poke. So what is the balance philosophy behind the move? Well, you need to do it from full crouch. And so that means that it's going to come out a little bit slower. However, as you can see right here, I'm not a Jack player. I don't have you know, good execution with him, but I'm trying to do a dash into this as fast as I can right now, and you can see it's coming out quite quickly. It's probably possible to do it even faster. It is very fast. It is certainly not reactable by any stretch of the imagination, and because it comes out of crouch, it also crushes high. So you have an unreactable high crushing move that is safe on block and gives you a setup or a mix-up on hit. So it's a very powerful low. It's unique in that sense, and if you don't know exactly those things, it's going to be very dangerous for you to fight against it. And that's unique, and it's something that you know, we can definitely allow Jack. I don't think it's broken or anything. You know, it only does 15 damage on hit or whatever, but it's a very unique and powerful low. The next move we need to talk about, and I think the crux to why Jack is such a successful character while simultaneously not being very well liked anymore, is his forward one, if you want to call it, you know, the jackhammer or the elbow drop or whatever. You know, he does it, he hits you, you get on the floor, everybody do the dinosaur, right? And he gets like 50 damage. You can get guaranteed damage off of this by doing your down back 2. You can do your tie your shoes move, which is going to give you 50, and you can also do just frame windmill punch with blue sparks. I'm not going to embarrass myself trying to do that on a pad right now, but you get the picture. You get something like 50 damage for connecting with this move, and that is exceptionally high for any 15 frame, and it is 15 frames, which is fast, but it obviously comes out a little bit slower because it is a forward notation. But for any 15 frame safe mid to reliably just rack up something like 50 damage while being this safe is extremely unique. I can't off the top of my head think of that many other examples of it in the game. There might be a couple, but this is a uniquely powerful mid. I mentioned that it's 15 frame startup, but obviously it comes out a little bit slower. But I mean, the fastest mids in the game that you would actually use for close-up poking are around 13. You might get 12, but then you're at something like -9 on block. It's not a, you know, a poke in that sense. At that point, it's more of an interruption tool. But for just 2 frames more, you can get this move that covers you know, a huge amount of ground. It has a very good range. I mean, the range is completely insane. He only needs to scrape you with the very edge of the hitbox and get a reliable 50 damage while basically putting himself at extremely low risk. And so if you keep on gambling on this move, what's going to happen is it either gets blocked and nothing happens, or you get a hit and then you collect 50 damage. You do that 2 or 3 times and the round is yours. So what is the balance philosophy behind this move? Why is it allowed to be so uniquely powerful? Well, the move is supposed to be very linear and it's supposed to be sidesteppable. We talked a little bit about Noctis the other day and how I think one of the more unfortunate aspects of his design is he has a lot of moves that are designed to be linear and very sidesteppable, but then because of sort of janky hitboxes, they don't tend to be that reliably sidesteppable the whole time, and that's why Noctis is annoying. Jack is annoying because of this move. First of all, the move is fast enough that you can never sort of react to it and sidestep it. You have to predict it, and it can come out at any time when he's at this range. At this range, he is exceptionally powerful because he has these long arms, and he can, you know, keep you out with a lot of powerful stuff from here. But at any time, any given time, he can just decide to do this because it's such a low-risk move, and you have to completely read it to sidestep it and get a punish, and then you can launch him, obviously. So the potential reward is very high. You get a launch on Jack, and you're able to get a combo. But if Jack gets the hit because you mess up your sidestep, maybe you mess up the timing by just a little bit, he gets not a full combo, he only gets 50 damage, but that's almost full combo damage. That's very, very high. So the potential risk for trying to deal with this move properly by sidestepping it as the opponent is very high. You put yourself at extreme risk for doing this, and so I don't think that the balance there works out. If a move is this powerful, it needs to be very risky to apply in Tekken, and if it's very safe, then you're usually dealing with something like, you know, a fast down forward one mid. It's not going to lead to anything exceptional because it's safe. It's more something they use to rack up damage and set up more powerful stuff, you know, when you have a read. And so it functions like a long-range mid-poke, but it comes from way downtown. It puts you at no risk whatsoever. Another thing to note, by the way, is if you look at Jack, he basically bounces off his opponent and takes a big step back, right? And if you look at Katarina's legs when this move gets blocked, you can see she actually starts walking backwards during the recovery animation. She's not blue during half of that step back, so you know, she doesn't have to perform that whole thing before taking another action. But you can see just from one single block here, if I just drop the controller, how much space has been created in between us while I just did that you know, super fast mid. This happens to be Jack's basically optimal range, by the way, which is kind of crazy. He does this, and not only is he safe, he comfortably walks back and puts his opponent exactly at his optimal, most favorite range. Namely the range where he can just do another one of these, right? So it's kind of crazy how the move not only like sets up itself, it takes care of your spacing game for you a lot of the time. It's extremely low risk, and even though a good opponent will try and sidestep this and launch you, it's a huge liability for them. And sometimes if you just keep on doing this and try to be unpredictable with your timing, you can luck out and rack up enough damage that you can win really, really difficult matches against good players. I was thinking a little bit about the other day what would happen if we just lifted this move off Jack and he didn't have it anymore. I think it would hurt him enough that he would not see that much play at all anymore, and I think that's very sad. I'm a huge fan of the big, heavy character archetype in fighting games, as you know, and unfortunately that's an archetype that tends to be the weaker in the games. You know, fighting games overall tend to favor fast, technical characters with a lot of setup stuff, with a lot of evasive stuff, and the big, clunky sort of high risk, high reward characters tend to do much, much worse. I think it's very good that we are seeing a lot of representation from one of these big, heavy, clunky characters, because I think that's fun. I think it adds a lot of flavor. High tier characters in Tekken tend to be, you know, constipated middle-aged men wearing leather, preferably with no shirt. And to just have like a big robot in the mix of that doing really well is cool. It's just that this move is so powerful that it makes him boring to look at and boring to play against. And I would prefer Jack to be changed in some way that he can remain very interesting and very fun to use, because he has so much fun stuff otherwise, right? But that we didn't have to watch this move over and over. And I don't know what would be a great way of doing that. I think Jack has he's probably the second most grappling oriented character in the game after King. You could probably do a lot of things to make his grappling game more interesting and more viable and more prolific, and have him as a sort of a grappling character. And you can do many other things. You could change this move to make it more reasonable, but I think as soon as this move stops being as oppressive as it is right now, a lot of Jack's player base is going to abandon him, which I think is sad. I also did another thought experiment. I thought about what would happen if you lifted this move off of Jack and you gave it to another big clunky character that is struggling to find a player base in a community and is struggling to find a place in the tournament scene. What would happen if you gave the 441 Jack counter to Gigas and you just put it on him instead? And I actually like that a lot more. I think it would work kind of better in Gigas' design, and it would make him, it would obviously boost his power by such a huge amount because it's, you know, in contention for being the best mid in Tekken. But it's also an example of how you can make and break one of these characters by giving them such an oppressive mid, and I don't think that's a very clever design choice, because a fun and interesting character design in this game is one that relies on strategy and moves working well in synergy with one another. And you don't want one of these huge mids that just kind of synergizes with itself and leads to reliable super high damage to exist without any kind of built-in liability. And so that's sort of my thoughts on that issue. I would very much like to hear what you have to think about it, and like I said, this is just kind of me mouth breathing while you know, kind of just doing a stream of consciousness on what I think about Jack. But I think my conclusion on the whole issue is that I would actually prefer to see him changed, because I am kind of tired of watching all these great players in tournaments, but having to see so much Jack. You know, there's a lot of Dragunov and then like a smattering of Mishima, but then like a character that I don't really enjoy that much in terms of design, like Claudio, showed up with Breadman in a recent tournament, and it was such a breath of fresh air to watch like a super high level Claudio you know, destroy you know, powerful Jack and Dragunov players in tournaments. So I think we would like to see a little bit more diversity in our tournament scene. But that's, again, just my opinion. Very interested to hear what you have to say about the issue. I'm going to have a shower now and prepare my picnic basket. I hope you have a great day as well. If you aren't having a great day, then I hope you have a great day soon, because I think you deserve one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for always supporting the channel. I'll see you guys again very, very soon.